The double anterior atlas is basically a same side atlas with a few adjustments to make to bring in the opposite side atlas adjustment. So let's just review the same side atlas. First, you're standing perpendicular. Your stance line is perpendicular to the slope, and your episternal notch is 1 inch posterior superior to the transverse contact. The contact point on the transverse contact has changed. Initially, see the other video, initially it was anterior superior. When I was learning it at the end of the 90s, Dr. Muncie started saying posterior superior, and there's some reasons for that, but I'm not sure it was ever tested in a focus group. Anyway, your contact, your tissue torque, pulling it back towards you. The ulna is pointing back between your legs. No elbow bend, I shouldn't say no elbow bend, small elbow bend. Hand palm should be as close to parallel to the floor as you can get with fingers pointed down. The patient's shoulder is here, so that's going to be on the back of the neck. And then the adjustment is like this. It's a cone, variable line. Of drive. The ulna here is going to be mostly vertical, but about the same angle with where you started as you come around. So it's a toggle and then a torque, and you end up with your episternal notch over your pisiform over the contact point. So that's the first part. The second would be to do a side opposite. So for example, in ASR-LT, your stance line, of course, is perpendicular to the AP plane line. Your feet are a little bit more in alignment with each other. Your contact point is going to be the anterior inferior aspect of the transverse process. Your episternal notch is going to be about 1 inch anterior inferior, and so you're coming in like this. Ulna is along the plane line, atlas plane line. Other arm is behind the shoulder, and then and the shoulders are accommodated to the convergence angle, the upside convergence angle, so the left convergence angle. The way we accommodate shoulders is once you have everything set here, you bend your knee, and you can see how that causes my pelvis to twist, and it causes my shoulders to come to accommodate. So I'm not twisting my upper body, I'm using my pelvis to cause my upper body to accommodate to the convergence angle. Then the adjustment is something like this. And you should end up in about the same position as you did on the same side. Elbow is about the same level, episternal notch through the pisiform to the contact point, the transverse process, and your adjustment is about like that. The difference is, of course, you're back a little bit, so you're coming in at this direction, and your stance line is a little bit different, of course, and you're accommodated so that you're pushing it back up the left condyle. So then if we combine those two for the double anterior, the stance line is going to be back to what it was for the same side. So if I am doing an ASL-ASR, I'm going to take the right slope. I'm going to stand like that. There's two things I'm going to make different though. Instead of being 1 inch anterior posterior, I'm going to step back so my episternal notch is 1 inch anterior inferior. And the contact point is going to be the same as the ASL-LT. So anterior superior, posterior superior, superior superior, I don't know. Then you accommodate the shoulders like you do with the side opposite, and then you just do an ASL. Arm is going back between your legs. Like this. Ulna is still fairly up and down. Your episternal notch is going through the pisiform to the contact point, and you should end up about here. Dr. Muncie, towards the end in the 90s when I learned it, actually, he started changing things. What this was how Dr. Muncie and Dr. Harkins, according to Dr. Harkins, how they tested it for Dr. Blair. Dr. Harkins tested with Dr. Muncie for Dr. Blair the AAS and the ASPI on the atlas. And so later on, there started to be a change where Dr. Muncie would do this fancy thing where he would bring his arm way down and he would slide his left foot back. Now, I never saw him actually do that in practice. I saw him teach it, and that's the way I learned it. The problem is you're more likely to come off on the side opposite, so it doesn't really look like a side opposite or a combination between the same side and the side opposite adjustment. Now it starts to look like something different. Again, it was something that I'm not sure he ever did a focus group and had people test. In the beginning, after Dr. Blair died, if he wanted to test something, or when Dr. Blair was still alive but unable to test things, there would be a small group of advanced practitioners. They'd say, go do it this way for a little while, come back and let's talk about it. So the AAS and the ASPI were done that way. The Prill leg tests were done that way. Beyond that, I'm not sure what else. So the double PI, we don't really know where that came from, except unless it's purely Dr. Muncie. There's a few other things. We just don't know where they came from, who tested them, unless Dr. Muncie just figured them out himself. But that's the AAS. So just once again, your stance line is the same as the same side. Your episternal notch is the same as the side opposite. Your contact point is the same as the same side, and the ulna is doing the same thing as the same side. The shoulders are accommodated like a side opposite, and then the adjustment is like a same side adjustment, and you should end up about the same as the same side adjustment, just like that.
Okay, this is an ASL-ASR. Episternal notch, 1 inch anterior, 1 inch inferior.